Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You're listening to Season 6, Episode 13 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True House Media and True North Radio, visit siouxsports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, it is an absolute pleasure to be with you on this episode of Full Time. We hope that you are all well. G, on this fine evening, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing not too bad. The chin's a little cold, but it just happens to be that time of year again. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Scarps?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, for the most part, I'm always clean shaven, but you got the great duster going on for November. So a salute to you, my friend. I could never, even if I tried. But I am doing very well. Thank you for asking. In today's show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five, the MLS, the Champions League, as well as regional and national soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We begin today's show with a look at Europe's Big Five, and we start with the English Premier League. At the start of the international break, all Premier League teams have played 11 games. And here's how things stand. Arsenal are top with 26 points. Manchester City is second with 22 points. Third is Chelsea with 20 points. Sunderland is in fourth with 19 points. Gitano still early on in the campaign, and if we look at positions 3 all the way through 10, they are all within 3 points of each other. Can we expect even more changes and shakeups here in the final 1.5 months of 2025?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you just look at the games that are coming up. There's teams in those kind of 8 or 9 positions that are playing each other. A team like Sunderland, who are kind of, yes, shocking the world. I'm going to put it in quotations, being fourth right now. But I think outside of Arsenal, they've avoided, just based on the schedule, all the other big 6 teams. So not that games are like easier, but avoiding City, avoiding Liverpool, avoiding just the more difficult opponents. They've already beat Wolves, already beat Chelsea. They've kind of beat the teams that they should be beating. Haven't played the teams that really are going to be laying a beating on them. So I think there's going to be a lot of change still. 11 games into the season is a good kind of indicator, but I don't think this is, of all the kind of the teams in the top 10, like I think that's the only team there that is more than likely, or not even more than likely, most definitely going to kind of fall out of there. But whether it happens before the end of 2025 or a couple weeks into 2025, when the fixtures really start coming thick and fast, can't really say. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of change for sure.
Yeah, I fully agree, and you can't be too quick to judge. You can make some assertions, you can have some opinions, but at this point in the season, still relatively early on, you can't make too many judgments. Out in Italy, Serie A, Inter and Roma are joint top with 24 points each, only separated by goal difference. Behind them is AC Milan and Napoli, who are also tied on points with 22 each. Gee, if we look at the closeness of the top 4, it's worth mentioning the likes of Bologna, Juventus, and even Como, who aren't too far behind. Your thoughts on Italy's top flight, sir?
Yeah, really loving the resurgence of Roma, hoping they can, again, maybe not keep up as a title challenger all year, but at least kind of stay in a Champions League or European position. They've kind of been dropping out of those in the last few years. And just a team of that stature just needs to be playing European football. And for the sake of Italian football, they need to be challenging for the Scudetto. Really, when I look at Serie A, like the biggest kind of shocker is Atalanta sitting firmly mid-table, considering I think they've like overachieved in the last few years in terms of like going on Europa League runs and pushing for a Serie A. But like to see them drop, and again, 11 games into the season, it's not totally end of the world, but to see them sitting 13th after 11 games, a little shocking. But I do love how tight the top of the table is. I think if we look almost all across Europe, this is probably the most level playing field in terms of like the top teams. There's no like standout. It's not just like in Spain. I know we haven't talked about them yet, but it's typically Barca, Madrid, maybe Atletico if they're feeling it. Like Italy, the last almost 4 or 5 years now has just been super tight. Bar when Inter ran away, or was it Inter or Napoli that ran away with it?
Napoli.
Napoli ran away with it. Inter's, I just know they've won a couple in there. But outside of that,
Yeah.
like it's been super tight. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how the rest of this title race plays out. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, and that was when I think Spalletti was in charge at
Yes.
Napoli. They just went on a run that year. It was nuts. But yeah, I agree. Past few years have been incredibly competitive in Serie A, and it's given us some great talking points here on Full Time in terms of the best title race in Europe. So I anticipate that just might continue. Spain's La Liga is beginning to look, to your point, Gitano, a lot like Barcelona and Real Madrid versus everybody else, but maybe some contention there in the top four. Right now, Real Madrid is atop of the table with 31 points. Barcelona trails them in second with 28 points. Villarreal is third with 26 points. Atletico Madrid is fourth with 25 points. Gee, what can you say for La Liga?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you're really looking at like who's going to get that fourth Champions League place. The teams like Betis, Espanyol, Athletic, and obviously Villarreal who currently have it. That's going to be a bit of a battle. Atletico's probably just going to kind of sit in third for most of the season. Maybe mount a little bit of a late push, but it's probably going to fall a little short. And then it's really just going to come down to Barcelona and Real Madrid here, and whether kind of the Galacticos can keep it up because they had a fantastic start to the season, only dropping 4 points, one loss and one draw, whereas Barcelona have the second loss in there. Yeah, I think it's really just going to kind of come down to who can kind of keep, because we know both these teams are going to lose some games here and there. They're going to drop some points, but like who can keep that stumble from becoming a full on falling off a cliff. We saw it not last year, the year before with Barcelona, where they'd started the season so phenomenally, lost one game, and then dropped a whole bunch of points after that. Hopefully, they kind of learn from that, keep it from spiraling like that. And for Real Madrid, they're Real Madrid. That's really all there is to say at this point. They're just going to win as many games as possible. That's just what they do. It's going to be a tough one, but yeah, it's definitely just going to be those two teams at this point. I know it's
I,
early, but like that's what it's going to be.
yeah, at the end of the day, that is what it's going to be, and you just wonder if maybe an Atletico or Villarreal might be able to make a bit of a push just to make things interesting. But I think we could all call a spade a spade. It is going to be those two teams there at the end of the day. The Bundesliga in Germany is being ran by Bayern Munich. They are first with 28 out of a possible 30 points. Leipzig is second as Dortmund and Stuttgart trail behind. The job is obviously far from done yet, only having played 10 games in Germany, but Bayern, apart from that one draw, they're unblemished with a staggering 35 goals scored so far.
Yeah, I mean, you look at their last like three of their last four games. So we talked about in the last episode that they were playing Borussia Dortmund upcoming. Uh, we were worried that if they kind of put three or four past Dortmund, it might be that would have been wraps for the season. Only beat them 2-1. But then you look at the two games after that, it's Leverkusen and Gladbach, and they beat them 3-0 each. And really, the only points they've dropped have been to mid-table Union Berlin, kind of out of nowhere in a draw. So, yeah, it's just you watch them play. It's not even just the stats. It's not even just like the table. You watch these games. There's just no way anyone in Germany can compete with them at this point. I think if they gave them the Bundesliga title right now, I don't think anyone could complain. I think the real big thing for Bayern is going to be, can they keep themselves from getting complacent in Europe once they've kind of wrapped up the title in probably February, March. That's going to be Vincent Kompany's biggest challenge this year. But yeah, I think the Bundesliga is wrapped at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that we're saying that here on November 13th, but we're looking, technically speaking, for a record breaking season, potentially, if things continue the way that they are. Absolutely wild. But to your point, can they sustain that? Can they hold that going into Europe in the deep stages of the Champions League? That remains to be seen. And in France's Ligue 1, PSG is first with 27 points. Marseille is joint second with Lens on 25 points. Strasbourg trails them with 22 points. Gitano, we can't really call it true separation, but PSG do have their noses out in front. Your take here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the tightest title race PSG have been in for a couple seasons. So it's interesting. I'm really excited to see kind of how these. And we've already seen them lose a game, which I think is almost better for them than last year, having that pressure build and build and build. I think it was good for them to get that loss out of the way. But I'm really excited to see how this team, because they're still very young. They're not like we talked about. They're not the big superstars anymore. It's a very like not entirely homegrown, but it's a very homegrown team. It's a lot of young players. Really excited to see how they deal with like an actual proper title race. And against the Marseille side that is actually quite good. And they've been off pace for the last couple of seasons, not having the best seasons, but it's nice to see them kind of back in a title picture and challenging. And at this point, I mean, I would just take anyone challenging PSG in Liga, whether it's Toulouse or Brest or Nantes, like someone's got to challenge PSG. But I am really glad that it's a team like Marseille.
Yeah, me too. And like you said, as long as somebody pushes PSG so they're just not running away with it and it leaves very little to talk about come the new year, I'm definitely okay with that. Moving along, we will now have a look at the MLS. Major League Soccer is well into the playoffs, and we are more than ready for the conference semifinals upcoming this weekend. Gitano, have you enjoyed the playoffs thus far?
So I mean, I've loved it as a whole, and I know we're going to talk about the results, but the fact that Seattle's out is just like it took my enjoyment of it just way over the top. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, and I made sure to immediately message you right after that penalty shootout, and I said, "Well, I think that we're both pleasantly, we're pleased nonetheless." So, yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Happy with the MLS playoffs. Would love to see Toronto FC in there, but we know that that's not a reality. So, generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with it. And what we're going to do now is take a look at the conference semifinals and make some predictions. So first, Cincinnati will take on Inter Miami to see who will book their spot in the Final Four. G, who are you taking?
I can't bet against Messi and his boys. Really can't. It would just be stupid to at this point. I also feel like, not that Messi doesn't ever want to win everything, but the fact that he hasn't won MLS Cup, I feel like it's just one of those things. He wants to win just to say he's won it, so nobody can go and say, "Oh well, oh yeah, you won Champions Leagues and La Liga and this and that, but never won an MLS Cup." Like he's gonna want to win it. I think they're gonna. It's again not going to be easy, but I think they're gonna get through here.
I think so too, and I'm also going to take Inter Miami for all of those reasons that you mentioned, and just on the mere fact that I think that they're a much better side than Cincinnati, despite the fact that Cincinnati did have a pretty solid season. Philadelphia will lock horns with New York City. G, who do you like in this one?
I like New York City, and I think their depth is going to be what kind of takes them over the top here. Yeah, again, like it's two, I think, pretty even matched 11s. I think if you have like best 11, it's a pretty even game. I would almost want to bet on extra time or penalties. But I think New York City's just got a little more depth and they've got a little more experience going deep on these playoff runs, having won MLS Cup a couple of years ago. So I'm going to lean with New York.
Yep, and I remember that MLS Cup win, watching it on my couch. I'm going to go here in a different direction, and I'm just going to go purely based on gut feeling. Philadelphia has been giving me a good feeling all season long. I really like the look of them, but I do think that of all of the matchups, maybe with the exception of the Vancouver one, this will probably be my favorite. So I am going to take Philadelphia instead. San Diego will take on Minnesota in the conference semifinals. G, who do you got?
I mean, both teams coming off pretty heavy wins in their respective what would that be? Conference semifinal, conference quarterfinal.
Yeah, well, yeah,
First
whatever you
knockout
want to
round.
call it.
First knockout.
Yeah, first knockout. Call it that.
And honestly, San Diego kind of surprised me this season with the form that they had, considering how new they are to the league. I really just didn't think that they would put together a season like this so early. I think the Magic's going to run out in this knockout round. I think Minnesota's going to take them. Again, not a big blowout or anything crazy like that, but I think Minnesota's just a better team.
And so do I. And I can't disagree with anything that you said. So I'm also taking Minnesota for all of those reasons. And I just think that in the playoffs, quality does eventually prevail. I mean, we saw last year Inter Miami getting upset. But again, you want to talk about one here and there? Sure. But I don't see this one happening here. So I'm also taking Minnesota. And finally, Vancouver will go head to head with LAFC for a chance to get into the conference finals. Gitano, who are you backing in this one?
This, I think, is the toughest one to call. Vancouver had a near historic season, not just for Canadian MLS team, but for MLS teams in general. Were just phenomenal on all fronts. but LAFC is LAFC, and I think for them bringing in Heung-min Son in August ish has just been an absolute turbo boost on their season. He's been scoring like he's been scoring like he's been playing City the entire MLS season because he just always had a goal against us in his back pocket. Um, so this one, I looked at this last night before recording. I was leaning LAFC. Today I was thinking about it all day at work, so it was on my mind, and I was going to go with Vancouver, but I've talked myself out of going with Vancouver right now. I'm going to have to pick LAFC. I think it's going to be close, but I think there's just like the tiniest little bit more quality in that LAFC side, and I think that's what's going to make the difference.
Yeah, Human Sung could be the difference, right? Like that's a world-class talent playing in a league that isn't necessarily world-class itself. So that very much could be the difference. I'm going to back Vancouver only because it is a Canadian team. They have had a very good season. I loved watching them play this season, and I'm going to ride with them here. So I will take Vancouver. G, just to review these picks, you're going to go Inter Miami, New York City, Minnesota, LAFC. I'm going to also go Inter Miami, but I'm going to go different on Philadelphia. I'll also take Minnesota, and then I will take Vancouver. A reminder that the conference semifinals go this weekend on Friday and Saturday evening, November 14th and 15th. You can catch all MLS playoff games on your local television sports network. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full-Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full-Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. The Champions League has hit the midway point of the group phase, with teams having played 4 of their 8 allotted games. G, how are you feeling here in the Champions League as we are officially at the halfway point there in the league phase?
Feeling pretty good. Still getting used to the league format. It's again weird. Like in the group stage format, like I could do all of the mental math. I could look at a group and know exactly who's going through, what they need. So it's still just a little weird not having all of that figured out. But I'm enjoying it so far, and City are doing well, which is better than last season. So I'm having a great time.
Right on, and I'm also having a good time too, man, and still getting used to it. I don't really know how much I like the format. I kind of made that claim and that assertion, if you will, at the end of last season, but it is what it is nonetheless, and we are here at the halfway point. And taking a look at the Champions League table, it's Bayern, Arsenal, and Inter, all who have 12 points. Manchester City has 10 points. PSG, Newcastle, Real Madrid, and Liverpool complete the top 8 right now with 9 points each. And it is also worth noting that Galatasaray also have 9 points, but they are outside of the top 8 due to goal difference. So, G, what can you say for those teams in the top 8, including Galatasaray?
Yeah, I mean Galatasaray are kind of the quote unquote odd team out there. But when you look, like if you were to name kind of 8 of the top teams in Europe, like that's pretty much what you expect. Maybe Newcastle might be a bit of a stretch, but that's pretty much when UEFA kind of came up with this idea. This is probably exactly what they wanted. Was all the big hitters finishing up high. Even like Spurs, Barca, and Chelsea kind of sitting in 12th through 13th there. Like, I think it's pretty bog standard if we're going to be totally honest, with the exception of Galatasaray, which isn't a terrible thing. It's just a little boring.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, we saw it last year. Teams who, in the first half of the league phase, they didn't do particularly well. I mean, your Manchester City was one of them. But then
Yep.
in the second half, like turning the Jets on, if you will, and changing things around and changing their fortunes. So again, things can change in the second half of this. But I agree with you that probably when UEFA envisioned this, they probably thought, okay, that top 8 is going to be the big 8 teams. Maybe again with Newcastle being pulled out, Barcelona possibly being put in, Juventus or something like this. But generally speaking, what the top 8 is what the top 8 is. And again, a tip of the cap to Galatasaray. And G, for you, who that is outside of those top 8 positions are you looking at really to step things up here in the final 4 games?
So I mentioned like Barca and Chelsea are sitting outside of the top 10, but they're close. They're 7
Yeah.
points. They're on 7 points each, like a one win out. I'm not too worried about them. But when I look a little further down the table to see like Marseille and Juve not even currently qualifying for the next round, that's a bit of a scare. as well as a team like even Atletico Madrid in 17th in the table. But outside of that, it's kind of pretty okay. I will, however, say I had Ajax to. I said both the Dutch teams, Ajax and PSV, to kind of beat dark horses, and then Ajax have put up 1 goal in 4 games, conceded 14. Um, Bottom of the table, I was wrong. I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off when we get to. We don't have to do that at the end of the season now. Like I was wrong.
Well, it's okay because you're not wrong often, but sometimes you do got to pick a dark horse, and you really gotta, put yourself out there. And at the end of the day, Gitano, I'm with you on Juventus and Atletico. I think that they really need to step it up in these final 4 games, but I'm also going to say Napoli as well. I think that their standard is much higher than what they've shown in the Champions League. I think also in Serie A that they're going to probably look to kick on as well. And I'm also going to say Villarreal. They're needing to produce something more because in league play in La Liga, they've been more than okay, but they've been super disappointing so far in the Champions League. So amongst those teams, I'm looking for them to really step up in the final 4 games. The Champions League continues with its next set of midweek clashes on November 25th and 26th. And now it is time for a regional and national soccer update. Ontario University Athletic Soccer and U Sports National Soccer has officially wrapped up for another season. We bring the highest level of amateur soccer in the country to a close for yet another year, and how lucky that you and I were both able to witness it here at home once again.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just going to speak kind of particularly to the men from Algoma here. Like, just the level that they are bringing is something we haven't seen before. Like the quality on the field. Obviously, we're kind of used to seeing the good teams come here to play us, but it's a really strange feeling. Like when the best teams in the province are like coming to play Algoma, and like we're competing in games, we're winning games, we're getting points off them. It's a very welcome surprise. Don't get it twisted. But it's just it's wild to kind of see. We're not quite there yet, but like the level of compete being there is it's incredible, and to see that from our local school is pretty special.
It is pretty special, and again, great to see games this year, as we always say. And especially for me, being the last couple of seasons now on the outside looking in, it gives me a totally different perspective, but in some ways always makes me, or almost, makes me more appreciative. So it has been fun to watch. And what we're going to do here, Gitano, is we're going to take all of our viewers through the results from both the women's and men's side of things here regionally in the province of Ontario. And we're going to begin by looking into the women's OUA final. Going into the final, it was Guelph who would take on Toronto, and it was all to play for, as the winner would be crowned provincial champions. Regardless of the result, however, both teams booked their place at Nationals, hosted in Hamilton, Ontario the following week. The Guelph Griffins last made the OUA final in 2017, where they went on to win the championship against the Ontario Tech Ridgebacks. This marked Guelph's first OUA title in program history. Since their OUA triumph back in 2017, Guelph has made the playoffs out of the OUA West Division every single year. And coming into the championship game, the Toronto Varsity Blues had never won an OUA title in their history. The last time they reached an OUA final was in 2019, when they lost to the eventual champions, the York Lions. The game was decided in the second half off a set piece where Toronto would get the go-ahead goal and never look back. Toronto wins the OUA final by a score of 1-0, their first OUA championship in program history. It was heartbreak for Guelph, but Toronto win their first ever title in program history. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at the Guelph side, you talk about going to a final, winning it, and then making the playoffs and pushing every year. You kind of hope to see that consistency kind of continue through this program. You don't want them to drop it. Obviously, it's a heartbreaking loss for them. But you hope that that's kind of just a little bit of fuel for next year to kind of keep it going. And then on the other side for Toronto, that is just anytime a program wins their first championship, it's special. It's one of those things like that's, in 20, 30, 40 years, people are going to look back at, that team, the first provincial title in the school's history. That's just incredibly special. They had an amazing season. And were phenomenal in the playoffs and the final. I couldn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights. And I thought they were fantastic. Just a massive congratulations to them for winning. A massive congratulations on top of that for winning the first one in their program's history. Just a really, really special season for them.
A special season indeed. And I remember in 2021 during the COVID season when I was coaching out of Goma on the women's side, and we had went to the University of Toronto to play, and we dropped a 2-0 decision and a 3-1 decision, if my memory, 2-0 and 3-1, because I remember losing both games by 2. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, there's something here. There's something special here. And sure enough, 4 years on, OUA champion. So congratulations to them. And again, of course, congratulations to Guelph, always being a really good outfit and always a difficult opponent to play against, one of the best in the province. And going into the men's final between York and Toronto, it was all down to pride and who would claim the Ontario Championship. Just like the women's final, both men's teams booked a spot at Nationals regardless of the outcome, as Toronto was this year's host. The York Lions came into the OUA final, get this, having won their 17th straight OUA West Division title, a feat that has never been accomplished in OUA history. This game also marked a milestone for the Lions, as they would appear in 11 of the last 12 OUA championship finals. Unbelievable. Last season resulted in OUA silver for the Lions before grabbing bronze at Nationals. The Toronto Varsity Blues men's soccer team went into the championship game with a rich history behind it as, get this, one of the oldest soccer teams in North America at any level of soccer. The team was founded in 1879 and has 50 provincial OUA championships to its name, entering the contest against York. Last season, Toronto won the East Division title, but fell out in the playoff quarterfinals, signifying their recent struggles to find medals at provincial level. Things were level at 0-0 after 90 minutes, and that meant the game required extra time to decide a winner. In the 100th minute, a York Lions red card gave Toronto a bit of reprieve, as they would go on to score twice en route to winning the championship by a score of 2-0. The Toronto Varsity Blues win their 51st championship in program history, alongside the chance to host Nationals. At provincial level, it was the year of Toronto, clearly.
Clearly, and like you want to talk about battle of the heavyweights there, like I knew obviously York Lions have just been like dominant. I didn't know that University of Toronto had history like that. That is insane. Um, but yeah, honestly, like the biggest shock for me was York Lions losing. We haven't seen that much in the last, I don't know, 10 years. At least the 5 years that I've been like really heavily paying attention to university soccer. Again, only caught the highlights, so didn't see the whole picture of the game. But yeah, you could definitely tell when the game changed with the red card. I didn't hate the decision for it. I thought it was pretty straightforward. Not much to complain about.
Can't have a foot that high, especially against a goalkeeper.
No,
Center back ultimately, but in and around the penalty area where the goalkeeper is, you can't have a foot that high. You're only asking for problems.
Exactly. Like it's one of those ones where like you might be able to argue it with VAR and maybe at the pro level, like, but you just can't be doing that. You're just asking for trouble. You're putting the ref in a spot where he's got to make a decision. And you know, I would say 99 times out of 100, the ref's going to give a red there. So really hard to complain about that. But you know, that is what it is. That's the game. Props to Toronto for taking advantage of that. Not that they were hurt and you know sitting back like just like absorbing all the pressure, but definitely felt a little bit like they were playing for a shootout, which isn't a terrible. Against York, it's definitely not a terrible game plan if you've got the kind of capabilities to do it. But an incredible final. And again, congratulations to both teams on incredible seasons. 51 titles. That's insane.
Something, isn't it? It's wild.
That's 51 somethings.
51 something again and again and again. Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And you know what? In the game, I always felt that York was kind of one step ahead. They had the chances, and I thought for sure on 2 occasions, for sure, I said, these are sure goals, and I couldn't believe that they had missed. And when you're watching any sport, you think to yourself, well, if you're going to miss chances like that, you almost wonder if it's going to turn in the other team's direction. It certainly did with the red card and then obviously the 2 goals. So, yeah, congrats to Toronto, but also congrats to York for making yet another OUA final and another appearance at Nationals, as we're going to talk about here shortly. And now talking about U Sports Nationals, on the women's side, it was 3 Ontario teams who represented at the tournament. Both Toronto and Guelph, of course, who qualified as OUA finalists, and McMaster, who qualified as the host team. Guelph and McMaster lost their 2 opening games, thus knocking them out of the tournament. Toronto lost their opener, but won their second match, setting them up for the 5th place consolation game against Cape Breton. Toronto went on to win the game by a score of 2-0. Toronto captures the consolation title as the 5th best team in the nation. In a strange set of environmental circumstances, the bronze medal game on Sunday, November 9th was cancelled due to inclement weather so that the field could be prepared for the national final later that evening. A heavy snowstorm, and I do mean heavy, was the reason for the cancelled third place match. Both Trinity Western and Laval were deemed as co-bronze medalists for the 2025 season. In the gold medal game, which eventually did get played after a 2.5-hour delay, the Montreal Carabins defeated the UBC Thunderbirds by a score of 2-1, ending the possibility of UBC completing a three-peat at Nationals. An absolute crazy ending to this tournament on the women's side, but a champion was crowned and the women's season does come to an end. Your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I get kind of similar when I was talking about York Lions. Like, to hear that UBC lost is insane. We've talked at length, both on the air and off the air, about just the dominance that program has produced. So to see them not winning a national title is honestly just bonkers to me. But also, like, the conditions for that game, the heavy snow. I do feel bad for the teams that didn't get to play in the bronze medal game. Although I do think it's fair to kind of call them co third medalists, co third place. That does suck for them to have that whole season kind of built towards that, and then you just don't get to play your last game of the season. I do feel really bad for them. But a game like that in those conditions, the gold medal game there, like that is what Canadian soccer dreams are made of, playing in the heavy downfall, the snow. I'm always an Under Armour guy, whether it's summer or winter. So like, I love that. Give me a snoot and some little black the Umbro gloves from like the mid 2010s. Like, that to me is perfect. I thought the game itself was really entertaining. Again, only catching highlights, but I thought it was just a fantastic match. Maybe one of the best at that level I've ever seen, I thought. Congratulations to both teams on fantastic seasons. But I thought it was just a fantastic final.
Yeah, and the big thing for me in that final, obviously the conditions played a huge role in the fact that teams really couldn't play football. Like, it really did come down to the battle, the whole idea of teams playing long, trying to get on first and second balls, these sorts of things. But the thing that, made me so happy in terms of the fact that Montreal ended up winning, when they were up 2-1, every time that they got a throw in, they celebrated it like it was a goal. Every time that they got a corner kick, they celebrated it like it was a goal. I had never seen, maybe I have seen, but not in a long time, that level of passion in a game, in a final, and that was just an unbelievable showing. UBC put out a great performance, but again, in those conditions, anything can happen. So,
What
strange and bizarre.
If you remember the PSG City Champions League tie in 2021, where actually, funny enough, one of the games had really awful snow conditions. But it felt like every block that City made, it was Zinchenko, it was Ruben Diaz, it was John Stones, and Jacques Cancelo, I don't even think was playing right back at that point. I forget who we had playing right. It was Kyle Walker. Any block, Walker, like the whole, it was definitely Kyle Walker. Any block that they made or any save that Ederson made, it was all five of them were all high five and hugging it out. Like, that was the vibe I was getting. I loved it.
Yeah,
like just committed to the.
Committed to the cause. With the second that ticks off the clock, that they're that much closer to a national title, and in the end, they did get there. So, huge congratulations to Montreal, and also huge congratulations to Toronto getting that 5th place consolation as the 5th best team in the nation. And on the men's side, Toronto and York would represent Ontario in the U Sports National Tournament. Toronto lost their opening match before winning their second game, setting them up for the 5th place consolation final, the exact same as their women's team. Toronto did lose, however, to UBC by a score of 2-1. Toronto ends their storied season as the 6th best team in Canada. York started the tournament strong with a 5-1 win over Dalhousie. From there, York went on to beat Montreal 2-0 in the semifinal. This would set York up for what they felt was familiar territory for them, another national final. And in that final, the heaviest snowstorm you will ever see in a soccer match kept things level at 0-0, requiring extra time. And in the 115th minute, a York Lions penalty kick would ultimately seal the deal, as York would hang on to win their 6th national title in program history, defeating Mount Royal by a score of 1-0. Gitano, this was an unbelievable showing from York this season to win the OUA West Division for a 17th straight time, get back to an OUA final for the 11th time in the last 12 years, lose that final to Toronto on Toronto's home pitch, and then a week later go back to that exact same pitch and win a national title. It's also worth mentioning that the bronze medal game was won by Montreal as they defeated the University of Quebec by a score of 5-1. Gee, on the big story, and that is the York University Lions who grab another national title. When it comes to men's soccer in this country, York truly reigns supreme in our province and in this country when it comes to university soccer. I think, obviously, they proved this year that they are the best, but out and out every single year, they truly are an unbelievable team.
Yeah, it's not even funny at this point. Just the quality and like the consistency, because especially at the university level, like you're rolling through probably 4, maybe 5 years if you're lucky to keep an athlete. Like it's not like a pro team where you can sign a guy to a 10-year contract. Like you are rolling through players. So to keep that consistency up, and not just like being good, but being like the absolute gold standard in the country is just insane. I definitely think that playing, I almost think it was an advantage playing the national final on the same pitch that you lost the provincial final at. Like that was, I've never been in that locker room. I couldn't tell you a player involved or a coach involved, but I can guarantee you in that locker room, they said, hey, last week we lost here. Like tonight we're winning here. Like we're not leaving here losing 2 finals in a row. Just incredible. And on the conditions, that is, we were talking about how there was a MLS game. It was Colorado, and I forget who else that played.
Right.
That was
Yes.
a whiteout. But outside of that, like we can't think of anything like that. We've seen Canada play where there was heavy snowfall before the game, the game at the Ice Teca in Edmonton against Mexico. But like to see those conditions like during the game, and again like and what I said about the women's final as well, like it's not that it was the best game of football. It wasn't the most beautiful, like, tiki taka, Pep Guardiola. Like, it was just an absolute battle. Like, just two teams that had to do quite literally anything to win. I just loved it. I loved the compete. I loved even in the bad conditions, the quality I thought was so really, really high.
Yep.
It was just phenomenal. It was just, I don't think, maybe. No, I can't even think of a game that, like, in those conditions, like, that could live up to the hype and the occasion that it was, which is a national final. I just thought it was brilliant.
It was. And you know what? I would encourage anybody, if anybody has Instagram, if you just go into search and you punch in U Sports Men's Soccer National Final, you're going to get tens, if not probably close to 100 reels from that final. And the way that it's all captured, you wouldn't even have to watch the game to truly appreciate what it was, what these players played in, the effort that they would have had to put in, and credit to Mount Royal too, because that could have went either way, honestly. But yeah, that was a final unlike anything that I've ever seen, and a huge kudos to both teams, but specifically the York Lions. I had to play against them for 2 years when I was a player. I had to coach against them for several years, a couple times on the men's side of things, and then a bunch on the women's. That program is unlike anything that I've ever seen. So a huge tip of the cap to them and their coaching staff and everybody else. They totally deserve it. And that is a wrap on university soccer for another year, folks. Gee, it has been nothing short of a pleasure here, my friend, to cover it with you on Full Time.
Absolutely. Hoping that next season we can maybe get kind of a deep playoff run from Algoma. That would maybe the only thing I could wish for. The rest of this season, kind of across the province and country, has just been phenomenal and capped off in probably like the most memorable finals that we could ever imagine. So like, really just cannot complain.
Yeah, and who knows if we'll ever see finals like that again. I'm sure that we're going to see some absolute bangers down the years in terms of games, but when it comes to conditions, I mean, barring playing in like none of it, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. Absolutely wild, but definitely a pleasure covering it here. And as always, for all of our viewers, our show goes back to our roots of local soccer. It's the most important thing. It's why Gitano is here. It's why I'm here. It's why we are all here. But to cover regional soccer in the province of Ontario and national soccer in our country of Canada, it's always a great honor. So a big thanks to all of our listeners for taking yet another ride with us this season. And of course, we're excited to do it again next fall. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars, and be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we get ready to close out today's show, we want to extend our warmest thanks to all of you for being with us. Thank you for being the heartbeat of our podcast. Gee, well done tonight, my friend.
Well done to you as well. Sucks we're in an international break. We got no footy, no important footy to talk about over the weekend, but cannot wait to be back here with you. Excellent job tonight.
Thank you, my man. And it won't be before long that we are back here. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of November 24th, 2025. In that show, we will take a look at the MLS playoffs and the Carabao Cup. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at suitoday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.